Tonight we're time traveling to a place where the streets glisten from rain, and the soft glow of paper lanterns flickers in puddles beneath wooden eaves. You're walking, slowly, quietly, through the winding alleys of 18th century Edo, known today as Tokyo. It just stopped raining, the kind of thin, misty drizzle that clings to your sleeves and makes your straw sandals squeak. Around you, the night feels alive. A geisha's laughter lilts from behind a closed screen. Somewhere, a distant shamisen plucks a lonely tune. And all around you, umbrellas bloom like giant blossoms, papered, lacquered, silk-threaded, and sometimes so flamboyant that you'd swear someone was peacocking in the rain. Of course, you got one too. Yours is modest, or at least it should be. Because tonight's tale is about how, in this very city, in this very time, the Tokugawa shogunate decided that umbrellas were just too fancy. Yes, umbrellas. And yes, they were banned. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And while you're at it, drop your location and local time in the comments. I love seeing where and when you're tuning in from. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You trudge slowly past a vendor packing up his cart, his conical hat dripping with rain. He gives you a nod, eyes flicking to the rolled umbrella at your side. Not suspicious, just interested. Because not all umbrellas are created equal, and some, well, could get you into trouble. See, in this era, even your rain protection said something about your place in the world. The wagesa, or traditional Japanese umbrella, wasn't just a functional item. It was a class statement, a political signal, even a tool for seduction or status. Back in the early 1700s, wagesa were relatively humble. Made from bamboo ribs, washi paper, and a light coating of natural oils to keep out the rain, they were functional, affordable, and even a little stylish within limits. But as wealth shifted from the old warrior classes to the rising merchant elite, umbrellas began to change. Bright colors, imported silks, gold thread embroidery. Some even played little chimes when they opened. Yes, umbrellas became so extra that they practically sang their way into a scandal. Now imagine you're a samurai. You're paid in rice, your stipend shrinking, and here comes some plump merchant strutting down the street with an umbrella so shiny it reflects lantern light like a disco ball. You've got a sword. He's got a parasol. And guess who's getting all the admiring looks? You feel the insult in your bones. The umbrella might as well slap you in the face. Historians still argue whether this class tension was the true cause of the umbrella crackdown, or whether it was part of the broader sumptuary laws, regulations that dictated what people could wear, eat, or even own based on their social rank. The Tokugawa shogunate had a whole catalog of these laws, obsessively trying to prevent the lower classes from mimicking their social betters. Umbrellas? Just the latest casualty. But let's not pretend the government only cared about dignity. There was money involved. Fancy umbrellas weren't just a style choice. They created whole economies. Silk had to be imported or tightly rationed. Lacquer came from specialist craftsmen. Even the best bamboo came from specific provinces. A merchant's umbrella could cost more than a month's rent, and you can bet the shogunate didn't like those kinds of numbers circulating outside their control. So, how did the crackdown start? Quietly. First, there were whispers in the artisan districts. Certain paints were outlawed. Then, restrictions on handle length, of all things. Eventually, full bans were issued on umbrellas with certain patterns, especially the ones associated with kabuki performers and high-end courtesans. If your umbrella looked like something a theater star might carry, expect a fine. The irony. The umbrella police, yes, that was a thing, were often soaking wet. Picture a soggy inspector shivering in the drizzle, inspecting parasols for contraband glimmer. And no, they weren't above taking bribes. It's hard to enforce rain etiquette when your own coat is see-through from the downpour. One account, possibly apocryphal, but deliciously detailed, describes a tea seller who made his fortune by attaching tiny tassels to umbrellas. Illegal tassels. His trick? He claimed they were bird deterrents, not fashion accessories. He even staged a fake umbrella crow attack demonstration outside a magistrate's house. The magistrate was not amused. The tassels were burned, the umbrellas confiscated, and the tea seller forced a switch to more legal ornamentation. Ink stamps shaped like frogs. Still, the umbrella craze wouldn't die. For every rule, someone found a loophole. Artisans got clever. Instead of bright red paper, they'd use layers of pale orange and clear lacquer. When wet, the umbrella would gleam a brilliant crimson, technically legal, completely subversive. Like mood rings for the morally gray. You pass a small shop now, the shutter's half down, but through the gaps you see it. Rows of folded umbrellas, each one more outrageous than the last. Illegal? Probably. Beautiful? Definitely. And you wonder, if the rain returned, would you dare open one? You keep walking, the drizzle returning in fine, silver threads. Somewhere ahead, a bell tolls. The city is quiet but alive, full of secrets, whispers, and forbidden umbrellas. You walk slower now, the rain coming back in delicate, rhythmic taps across the rooftops. The sound settles into your bones, familiar, soothing. But with every soft footstep on the slick cobblestones, you feel like you're stepping deeper into the rules and rituals of this strange time. Because in 18th century Japan, it wasn't just about what you carried, it was how you carried it. And umbrellas? They had rules of their own. You remember the man earlier who gave your umbrella that odd look? He wasn't just sizing up your taste. He might have been assessing your posture. Carry your wagesa too high, and you looked arrogant. Too low, and you appeared subservient. Tilted? That was theatrical. Acceptable only if you were an actor, or courting someone in a poetic drizzle. This wasn't just staying dry. This was etiquette in motion. By now, umbrellas had become so entrenched in public life that they featured in everything from courtship rituals to neighborhood gossip. A young man gifting a woman an umbrella was often making a subtle romantic overture. In kabuki plays, umbrella-sharing scenes were coded love confessions. Entire fan clubs formed around which actors wielded their parasols with the most flair. The shogunate, of course, hated this. All of it. Not because they were killjoys, though arguably, they kind of were, but because umbrellas had evolved into tools of class subversion. Picture it. A lowly fishmonger strolling like a daimyo, just because he had a crimson lacquered parasol. It made the old order nervous. This wasn't just an umbrella. It was cosplay with consequences. Historians still argue whether umbrellas themselves were the issue, or if they were just symbolic casualties in the broader war between the old feudal elite and the rising merchant class. This new wealthy group, the Chonin, had money but no real power. They couldn't become samurai. They couldn't hold land. But they could buy umbrellas. Lavish ones. And they did. Here's where it gets wild. Some umbrellas came with hidden compartments. Seriously. A favorite among courtesans and kabuki actors. These wagesa could hide love letters, makeup compacts, or even tiny vials of perfume. One particularly scandalous case involved a nobleman's daughter smuggling a love poem written on gold leaf rice paper inside the hollow handle of her parasol. The poem fell out during a procession. The scandal? Immediate. The punishment? House arrest. For both her and the umbrella maker. Of course, this kind of rule-breaking sparked its own underground culture. Secret umbrella workshops sprang up in Kyoto and Osaka, crafting illegal designs in the dead of night. Think speakeasies, but for raindrops and rebellion. These rogue artisans would wrap their goods in rice sacks and ferry them through canals, using coded phrases like, "The sparrow's wing is drying," to signal a delivery. And yes, that phrase eventually became slang for smuggling contraband umbrellas. It still makes historians giggle. One master craftsman, known only by his pseudonym Rain Ghost, was famous for making the most outlandish umbrellas in the country. Painted with disappearing inks, his designs only revealed themselves when soaked. A tiger here, a poem there, sometimes both. You had to be standing in the right drizzle at the right moment to even see them. Naturally, owning one of these was both an act of rebellion and supreme taste. But not everyone could get away with it. Samurai were bound by stricter codes. Their umbrellas were supposed to be subdued. Dark paper, short ribs, zero decoration. Even then, there were risks. A story still passed down tells of a young retainer who dared to carry a midnight blue wagesa with a silver-threaded spiral hidden on the underside. The moment it unfurled in the rain during a lord's procession, he was demoted on the spot. Not for breaking a law. There was no law against secret spirals, but for inviting attention. In the Tokugawa era, that was a crime all its own. And yet, despite all this, the umbrella trade flourished. Why? Because the weather, darling. It rains a lot in Japan, and people weren't going to walk around getting soggy just to stay obedient. So they got clever. Some wagesa were reversible. One side boring, one side dazzling. Flip it as needed. Others had removable canopies, so you could swap out the illegal one after the inspectors passed. The more restrictions came down, the more creative people got. Merchants started hosting umbrella unveilings. Secret parties where guests would show off their newest forbidden designs under candlelight. Courtesans timed their strolls to accidentally open extravagant parasols in front of high-ranking officials. It was a game, a dangerous one, but fashion always finds a loophole, especially when soaked in rebellion and rainwater. And here's the part they never teach in history class. Umbrellas became theater, not just in kabuki, but in life. Street performers would juggle them. Poets would duel each other with verses scribbled along the ribs. A particularly eccentric monk in Nagasaki claimed his umbrella could predict the weather based on how the handle vibrated in his palm. It couldn't, but he made a fortune in tips. As you reach the edge of the district, you pass a woman lighting a paper lantern outside her shop. Her umbrella leans against the doorway, red-tinted, gold-fringed, obviously illegal. She sees you looking and offers a wink. You can almost hear the unspoken dare in her smile. Go ahead. Open yours. But you don't. Not yet. The wind picks up. The rain strengthens. And somewhere nearby, an inspector is counting tassels in the dark. You pull your umbrella a little tighter to your side now. It's not just about the rain anymore. It's about eyes. Not the warm kind, either. The kind that lurk under wide straw hats and peer from behind Norn curtains. This is Edo. After all, where everything looks peaceful on the surface, but underneath, a current of control runs deep. And right now, the shogunate has its focus set on you. Well, not you, specifically, but your umbrella? That's another story. By the mid-1700s, things were changing fast. Towns were growing, and the merchant class was exploding with wealth. Art, fashion, theater, all booming. And umbrellas? They were caught in the middle of it. No longer a simple tool to block the rain. They become fashion statements, love tokens, class markers, and, most damning of all, statements of individuality. Now, the Tokugawa shogunate didn't hate beauty. They just hated beauty that didn't know its place. So, in true Edo fashion, out came the edicts. It started small. A regulation here. A suggestion there. Umbrella colors were to be modest and non-disruptive. Materials must be unembellished and locally sourced. No more imported silks. No more foreign dyes. You could almost hear the officials muttering. It's not anti-umbrella. It's just pro-decency. Of course, that was nonsense. The real fear? Visibility. In a society that prized hierarchy above all, fancy umbrellas blurred the lines. A rice merchant with a jade-handled wagesa looked suspiciously like a noble from 10 feet away. A courtesan with a phoenix-painted canopy could outshine the wife of a daimyo. Status was supposed to be worn like armor, visible at all times. These umbrellas weren't just rebellious. They were camouflage. Historians still argue whether this regulation campaign was genuinely about maintaining moral order, or if it was a panicked response to rising wealth inequality. Either way, it wasn't long before the Koji umbrella purge of 1754. Sound dramatic? It was. Imagine, dozens of umbrella shops raided in 1 week. Warehouses emptied. Canopies slashed in the streets. And all under the banner of protecting virtue. Some officials even carried umbrella measuring sticks, long bamboo rods with markings to ensure proper width and height. Too wide, and your umbrella might be considered ostentatious. Too narrow. Perhaps you were trying to appear humble. Too humble. Either way, you were drawing attention. And in Edo, attention could get you fined, detained, or, in one extreme case, publicly shamed with a parade. Yes, a literal parade of shame. One poor merchant had to walk the length of Nyanbashi Bridge holding his band umbrella upside down as crowds jeered and threw radish peels. But even more surreal were the umbrella informants. Think about it. Paid citizens watching the streets, peeking into umbrellas to report violations. Did your parasol sparkle in direct sun? That might mean forbidden mica in the lacquer. Was there a hidden scent? Smuggling perfume was a real thing. If someone didn't like you, your rival, your ex, your neighbor, they could accuse you of umbrella vanity. And if the magistrates believed them, well, kiss your canopy goodbye. Still, people adapted. Umbrella makers began disguising their designs as repairs. A discreet stitched dragon here, a subtle sunburst pattern under a topcoat of mud-color dye there. Some wagesa had daylight forms and night forms, perfectly legal by day, but revealing their true shimmering selves under lantern light. You'd see lovers walking through dim alleys at dusk, their umbrellas glowing faintly with forbidden color. A secret shared in silence. That soft resistance? That was the poetry of Edo. A particularly clever design came from an Osaka artisan named Hidemasa. His umbrellas had replaceable panels secured by tiny bamboo toggles. If a patrol approached, you could literally shed your fashion crime in seconds, and voila, respectable citizen once again. They were called kawakiri, or skin slippers. Naturally, they became the toast of poets and troublemakers alike. There's a popular Edo saying, "Better to lose your sandals than your umbrella." Sounds ridiculous now, but back then, it was survival logic. Footwear could be borrowed, but if your umbrella was confiscated, especially in public, you didn't just lose property. You lost face, status, respect. And in this society, where everything ran on honor and appearances, that could mean losing your place in the social order altogether. Let's not forget the bureaucratic comedy, either. Each district had different interpretations of the umbrella laws. One inspector might tolerate light blue, while another would declare it decadent. Some judged umbrellas based on how quickly they opened. Too snappy? Show off. Too slow? Suspicious. This inconsistency created a strange, new kind of anxiety. Suddenly, people rehearsed umbrella openings the way kabuki actors rehearse bows. And just when it couldn't get weirder, the rain started cooperating with the rebels. 1755 brought a season of unusually dramatic rains. Thunderstorms so heavy that many officials abandoned patrols altogether. People called it the Sly Monsoon. Under its curtain, umbrella lawlessness flourished. Street corners glittered with contraband canopies. Courtesans strolled under silk domes embroidered with verses. Even the occasional samurai was spotted with a tassel or two. Naturally, the government responded with more force. Raids turned violent. Punishments escalated. Some umbrella shops were shuttered permanently, their owners exiled or imprisoned. Yet the black market thrived. Whisper networks grew. New patterns emerged, some encoded with messages readable only by candle reflection. It was art, it was protest, it was survival. And here's the most poetic twist. Despite all this, no formal law ever directly banned fancy umbrellas outright. It was all cloaked in euphemism, encouragements, reforms, moral guidance. Umbrellas were never declared illegal. They were simply discouraged to death. You weren't arrested for owning one. You were arrested for making someone else feel poor by doing so. As the rain softens for a moment, you glance down an alley and catch a glimpse of crimson. Quick, bright, then gone. Someone's carrying rebellion over their head. Somewhere, ink is dripping from a forbidden design. And somewhere else, a poet is scribbling a haiku on the underside of a canopy that no one but their lover will ever see. And you? You tighten your grip. The drizzle returns. You keep walking, step after quiet step. The stones of Edo's streets are slick with memory, of feet and floods, of footsteps gone unnoticed. Your own umbrella makes a faint, papery rustle as you shift it forward. Not a shield from rain, not even from watchful eyes anymore, but to listen, to remember. By 1760, the umbrella was no longer just a tool or a threat. It had become a symbol of change, of rebellion, of quiet style. That sounds grand, maybe too romantic. But historians agree. The umbrella wars of Edo were real. Aesthetic conflict disguised as public order. A social script rewritten every time it rained. One remarkable moment came with the appearance of the Yurnokasa, or umbrella of night. No one knows who designed it. It had a black exterior, nothing special. But beneath, a hidden inner lining painted with scenes from the floating world. Lovers, drinkers, gamblers, ghosts. Entire stories unfurled above your head when you looked up. People would walk at night, tilt their umbrellas just enough, and become those stories, moving paintings, anonymous and yet expressive. Officials couldn't ban what they couldn't prove. There is no inappropriate art, one magistrate supposedly grumbled, if no one is brave enough to open it in front of me. And so the night umbrella spread. Meanwhile, papermakers and bamboo smiths became silent heroes. Some risked their licenses to craft sleeper umbrellas, standard exteriors, but pre-treated to reveal color when wet. A red phoenix would bloom from a brown shell. A dull gray dome might weep gold under heavy rain. The very water, meant to cleanse you from vanity, instead revealed it. And the shogunate? They never caught up. These acts weren't loud. No riots, no manifestos. Just rain, design, and defiance. A samurai's blade is easy to track. An umbrella? Now that's subversion. You pause under a crooked eave, watching rain snake down the tiles. You can hear the clop-clop of Gita's sandals somewhere behind you, echoing into the fog. Maybe someone else out for a stroll. Maybe someone flaunting a rain-blooming phoenix above their head. Hard to tell. That was the point. What makes a government nervous? Not always guns or protests. Sometimes it's just when people don't care enough to listen anymore. Or worse, when they listen, smile, and do something prettier instead. You duck into a tea house. Nothing fancy. The air inside smells like roasted barley and damp straw mats. A girl behind the counter nods. Her umbrella is dripping just outside. Plain on the outside, but you caught a flash of blue. Irises, maybe. Back in the day, umbrella artisans began passing designs like secrets. No written patterns. Just whispers, gestures, and coded notes passed through lacquered fingers. Can you give me a moon on the inside? One might ask. A sea that only shows when it pours. These craftsmen weren't just resisting. They were playing. Historians still argue whether this was political art or just high-stakes fashion. But who says it can't be both? One legend speaks of a courtesan in Yoshiwara who owned 13 umbrellas, each representing a phase of the moon. Clients were said to track her moods by which umbrella she carried. And when she disappeared one day, leaving only her rain-streaked parasols behind, people claimed she had become the moon itself. A ghost of style, too radiant for rules. Did it really happen? Probably not. But you want to believe it, don't you? Outside, the rain slackens. But you stay inside a little longer, just to watch the umbrellas go by. Silent protests, gentle provocations, falling like blossoms on cobblestone. Because the fancier they got, the softer the rebellion became. The next morning, you find yourself drifting through a district few maps mention anymore. Once home to umbrella cartels so exclusive, their members never spoke above a whisper. You step carefully between puddles still holding last night's sky, passing storefronts that don't advertise but instead display quiet codes. A blue tassel, a lacquered box with nothing inside, or a scrap of mulberry paper taped behind the window. This was the heart of the diamond trade. Umbrellas so delicate they barely functioned, yet so coveted that samurai would trade their blades for one. Now, let's be honest. You probably wouldn't survive one of these umbrellas in actual rain. Some of them were more sculpture than shelter. Panels made of gold-threaded silk, tips carved from whale tooth, handles inlaid with mother-of-pearl harvested from forbidden bays. And still, they folded with the grace of a heron settling its wings. The government was not amused. At first, shogunal edicts simply taxed the most extravagant umbrellas. But when nobles began hiding entire landscapes beneath the folds, tiny woodblock scenes that revealed themselves only when soaked, authorities took it as a personal affront. One surviving law from 1786 sternly warns against umbrellas which harbor dreams unbecoming to rain. You chuckle. What kind of state fears a dream when it's wet? But you get it now. These weren't just objects. They were statements. Little pockets of defiance disguised as decorum. The Edo elite had found a loophole. Obey the letter of the law while absolutely gutting its spirit. Historians still debate whether umbrella making became a form of resistance or simply escapism. Perhaps it was both. After all, the line between rebellion and poetry gets awfully blurry when everyone's watching the weather. By midday, you sit beneath a bridge, listening to an old vendor talk about a guild that used to sell umbrellas in threes. One for sun, one for drizzle, and one you never opened in public unless you wanted trouble. It was black on the outside, but flash red inside, shogun red, the forbidden hue worn only by lords. Did people really use it, you ask? He shrugs. Only when they needed to be seen. That's how it worked. Not loud, not violent, just a flick of silk and color. A reminder that sometimes the softest things carry the sharpest meaning. You keep walking. The rain has faded, but the streets remain slick, glazed like old pottery, reflecting a sky that can't decide between apology and encore. The city hums around you. Wheeled carts trundle over stone, shutters creak open with yawns, and someone is playing shakuhachi in a back alley like they're whispering to ghosts. You wander into a quarter known in the 18th century as Kasayakocho, Umbrella Lane. Of course, it's not called that anymore. These days it sells everything from imported coffee to novelty socks. But once, it was the crown jewel of umbrella artisanship, home to the famed Hizitsuye workshop, whose creations were said to be so balanced they resisted wind, politics, and heartbreak. You step into what used to be their main storefront. Now it's a ramen bar, the kind with fogged windows and handwritten menus. But along the back wall, near the kitchen, hangs something peculiar. An old umbrella frame, stripped of paper, strung with thin bamboo bones, mounted like a shrine. A waitress sees you staring. She grins and says that, "My great-grandfather's." He said it once belonged to a poet who got arrested for using it during a solar eclipse. You laugh, not sure whether she's joking. Then again, this is Edo we're talking about. And during the 1780s, symbolism was currency. An umbrella during an eclipse? That's practically a manifesto. By now, you've pieced together a trend. These bans weren't really about umbrellas. They were about what umbrellas meant. In 1783, a widely circulated pamphlet titled The Three Shelters compared the umbrella to the mind. Folded, it is closed to wisdom. Unfurled, it shades truth from ignorance. Guess what happened next? Yep, banned. That same year, a theater troupe attempted a parody performance using oversized umbrellas painted with political cartoons. Authorities shut it down after 2 nights, and the lead actor was sent into spiritual retreat, which is Edo code for house arrest with poetry assignments. Historians still argue whether that event marked the official start of the so-called umbrella purges, or if it was simply a comedic misfire that fell victim to bad timing. Either way, the government's message was clear. Art is fine, until it makes people think. You pass another alley. A flicker catches your eye. On a laundry line, someone's draped a fabric that looks suspiciously like umbrella paper. Thick, waxed, hand-pressed washi. Maybe they're still making them. Quietly. Illegally. The underground umbrella scene, like a black market of beauty. You're tempted to follow the lead, but your stomach grumbles. Lunch calls. As you sip broth under the watchful gaze of the skeletal umbrella frame on the wall, you wonder, what was it about this everyday object that made it such a threat? Why did a rain shield stir so many fears? And what does it say about a society when its most dangerous symbol is a collapsible shade? Maybe it says everything. The rain returns in gentle spurts, tapping rhythmically against your umbrella's paper canopy. Each drop sounds like a soft drumbeat, lulling you into a reflective mood. You begin to think about the craftsmen who built these umbrellas, the unsung artists who shaped bamboo ribs, stretched delicate washi paper, and sealed their work with lacquer that smelled like pine resin and the sea. These artisans were bound by tradition and innovation alike. Some passed down secrets through generations. Others experimented with bold, new designs in defiance of the law. In some quarters, it was said that umbrella makers formed secret societies, complete with coded symbols embedded in their wares, a swirl here, a notch there, to communicate who was in the know and who was an informer. The craft was as much about survival as art. Bamboo had to be harvested carefully, from specific groves near rivers where the stalks grew straight and strong. Paper was treated to repel water, but remain light enough to fold gracefully. And the lacquer, was a mysterious concoction, made from tree sap and ground minerals, its recipe guarded like a samurai's sword technique. But not all artisans toiled openly. In back alleys, hidden workshops churned out phantom umbrellas, creations so exquisite and contraband that buyers risked arrest just to glimpse them. Some featured painted dragons that shimmered only in candlelight. Others had handles carved with tiny scenes of fox spirits dancing. Owning one was like holding a secret world in your hand. Historians still argue whether these underground crafts were driven by pure artistry or rebellion, or a mix of both. But one thing is clear. Umbrellas became canvases for expression in a society that tightly controlled visible status. If you couldn't wear your rank, you could carry it. Among the many tales is that of an artisan named Masaru, who famously created an umbrella so light it could float on a gentle breeze. Legend says he tested it by walking through a garden during a spring shower, the canopy barely bending under the droplets. Authorities confiscated the umbrella immediately, not for its lightness, but because it was said to mock the heaviness of authority. You smile at the thought. Imagine an umbrella light enough to laugh at power. Of course, not all stories were so poetic. Some artisans faced ruin. One infamous case tells of a craftsman accused of smuggling forbidden dyes in umbrella lacquer. He was paraded through the city streets wearing his own wares, folded and strapped to his back like a prisoner's chains. Yet, even in disgrace, his work inspired others to push boundaries. And so, the rain falls, and the umbrella's open, sometimes compliant, sometimes defiant. You catch yourself wondering, if a simple umbrella could carry so much weight, what else might be hiding in plain sight? The day deepens, and you find yourself wandering near the Sumida River, where boats float lazily and the city's pulse slows just enough for whispers to drift on the breeze. Here, merchants once thrived, ferrying goods and gossip alike. Among them were umbrella traders, some legitimate, others less so. You pause by a wooden dock, watching water ripple gently, and imagine the clandestine exchanges that might have happened centuries ago. Crates labeled simply, hiding bundles of umbrellas beneath sacks of rice or barrels of sake. Smugglers who could spot a shogunate patrol long before they arrived, slipping goods across the river under cover of mist. This shadow economy wasn't just about avoiding taxes. It was a lifeline for those who refused to surrender their umbrella's charm and craft. There were tales of umbrella pirates who hijacked shipments of plain canopies to swap in their ornate contraband. Their code? Rain is for all, but art is for those who dare. The black market for umbrellas grew so notorious that Edo's officials even employed informants known as kasamashi, literally umbrella bugs, to infiltrate workshops and marketplaces. These agents listened, watched, and reported on the secret signs used by umbrella lovers to identify each other in crowded streets. A flick of a tassel, a particular knot on a handle, a subtle scent of camellia oil, all could mark someone as a rebel. Historians still debate how organized these networks truly were. Some argue it was a loose collection of artisans and enthusiasts. Others suggest a near-mafia level of coordination, complete with encrypted codes and hidden meeting places. Whatever the truth, one thing remains clear. Umbrellas became symbols of community as much as fashion. You spot a group of children playing nearby, spinning small paper umbrellas in puddles, their laughter like scattered raindrops. It strikes you that despite all the rules and rebellions, umbrellas have always been about more than shelter. They are part of daily life, imagination, and play. As twilight falls, you recall an old story about a poet who wrote verses on umbrella paper, sending them floating down the river like delicate boats. Each poem a message of hope, love, or quiet defiance. The shogunate never found the poet, but they feared the words more than the canopies. You tuck your own umbrella a little closer, feeling the weight of history in its ribs. In Edo, the rain might fall evenly on all, but the stories beneath those umbrellas? They drip with secrets. You wander onward, the city's noise dimming to a soft murmur beneath your umbrella's canopy. The scent of damp wood and steamed rice drifts past, mingling with the faint hint of incense from a nearby shrine. Somewhere, a bamboo flute whistles a lazy tune, the notes curling into the mist like smoke. It strikes you how umbrellas, those delicate canopies, became silent witnesses to lives lived beneath their shade. There's a story here, etched into every crease and rib. Stories of merchants hoping for good fortune, of lovers stealing moments beneath fluttering paper, of samurai concealing their pride under plain black wagesa. One particular tale whispers through the ages, the mysterious umbrella duel. No swords drawn, no blood spilled, just two rival umbrella makers in a contest of craft and cunning. Each would present a new design every season, pushing the boundaries of lacquer, paper, and bamboo. The stakes? Honor, clientele, and perhaps a little revenge. The legend goes that the final duel involved an umbrella so intricately painted it captured the reflection of the moon itself. It was said to be so beautiful, so otherworldly, that it brought both rivals to tears. The shogunate, alarmed by the distraction it caused, promptly declared it too distracting for public use, quietly confiscating the masterpiece. Historians still debate the duel's existence. Was it fact, metaphor, or just a parable about craftsmanship and rivalry? But the story survives because it captures the spirit of the times, where art was power, and power was everywhere, even in the folding of an umbrella. You smile, imagining two old men bowing deeply beneath their wagesa, rain falling lightly around them like applause. Nearby, a geisha sweeps past, her red-lacquered umbrella barely visible in the haze. You catch a glimpse of her smile, knowing, secretive. Maybe she carries a message hidden in the ribs, or a poem written on the silk lining. After all, in Edo, the umbrella was never just an umbrella. It was a story waiting to be told. The sky has grown heavy again, the first drops of a new rain tapping gently on your umbrella's surface. You find yourself near a small shrine tucked between merchant shops, a place where townsfolk once gathered, not only to pray for good harvests, but also to seek blessings for their umbrellas. It sounds odd, but in Edo, even an everyday object could become sacred. There was a tradition, especially among umbrella makers and users, to offer a freshly crafted wagesa to the shrine's guardian deity. The ritual was simple: a soft bow, a whispered wish for protection, and the laying down of the umbrella as a temporary gift. It was said this ensured safe travels and shielded the bearer from not just rain but bad luck, gossip, and misfortune. Some merchants took the practice seriously enough to commission umbrellas adorned with miniature charms, tiny bells, carved figures, or painted talismans designed to ward off evil. The tinkling of these charms created a subtle symphony when umbrellas were opened in the breeze, adding a layer of quiet magic to everyday life. But even these charms could become political. During heightened tensions, umbrellas bearing certain symbols or colors were suspected of signaling allegiance to rebel factions or foreign powers. Imagine walking the streets, hearing the faint jingle of an umbrella charm, and wondering if it was a call to rebellion or just a pretty decoration. Historians still debate whether these umbrella offerings were genuine acts of faith or coded messages disguised as piety. Perhaps they were both, reflecting the blurred lines between spirituality, politics, and daily survival in Edo. The rain intensifies now, and you take shelter beneath the shrine's eaves. You watch as a pair of children play nearby, sharing a small umbrella, giggling as they chase each other through puddles. It's a reminder that despite all the rules, all the bans, and all the symbolism, umbrellas remain a simple comfort, a shared shield against the weather. You let your mind drift, imagining the countless hands that crafted, carried, and cherished umbrellas throughout history, each one a thread in the intricate fabric of Edo's story. And with every drop that falls, that story grows richer. You step back into the bustling streets as the rain begins to soften, the steady pitter-patter, now more like a gentle hush against your umbrella. Around you, the city hums with life, the clatter of wooden sandals, merchants calling out their wares, children darting between stalls under smaller, brightly colored canopies. The umbrellas here are practical, yet even the plainest wagesa holds a history in its ribs. The 18th century saw the rise of umbrella lending shops, casios, scattered throughout Edo. These humble establishments provided umbrellas for rent to travelers, merchants, and townsfolk alike who found themselves caught unprepared by sudden showers. Imagine it: a weary traveler arriving from the countryside, umbrella-less and soaked, greeted by a smiling shopkeeper who offers a sturdy wagesa for a few coins. But it wasn't just about shelter. These rental umbrellas became social instruments, markers of fleeting connection. You'd borrow one, pass it to a friend, or exchange a quick glance under the shared canopy. It was a momentary intimacy, a small pause in the day's rush. Some say these exchanges helped fuel Edo's vibrant social scene, bringing strangers closer in the rain's soft embrace. However, rental umbrellas also came under scrutiny. Officials worried that passing umbrellas around could spread ideas just as easily as rain. After all, what if one wagesa carried a secret message tucked inside its folds, or a hidden symbol painted beneath its surface? The line between practicality and subversion blurred. A curious case emerged in 1778 when an umbrella lending shop was raided for allegedly facilitating correspondence between rebel sympathizers. The shop owner claimed innocence, insisting it was merely business as usual, but the shogunate wasn't convinced. The incident led to tighter regulations on rental umbrellas, including regular inspections and fines for those found with unauthorized decorations. Historians still debate how much impact these lending shops had on the umbrella controversy. Were they innocent bystanders or unwitting players in the political undercurrents of Edo? Whatever the truth, these rental wagesa remain a charming footnote, a reminder that even the simplest acts, like sharing an umbrella, can carry weighty meaning. As you tuck your own wagesa under your arm, the rain begins to clear, and the city breathes a soft sigh. You wonder how many stories have passed beneath umbrellas, just like yours. Stories of friendship, rebellion, and quiet resistance, all sheltered under a paper canopy. The clouds part slowly, and a gentle light filters through the thinning sky as you stroll toward the outer districts, places less polished, more alive with the everyday hum of Edo's working people. Here, umbrellas served not only as protection, but as currency of identity, subtle signals woven into the city's fabric. In these neighborhoods, you'd find wagesa that bore humble markings, brush strokes mimicking bamboo leaves, waves, or simple clouds, designs meant to blend, not boast. The craftsmen here prided themselves on creating umbrellas that whispered rather than shouted, elegance hidden in modesty. It was an unspoken language between artisans and users, a nod to shared values and survival. You pause by a street vendor selling roasted chestnuts, their aroma weaving through the damp air. The vendor's umbrella is well used, its paper slightly worn, but carefully repaired with patches of washi, the stitches neat and precise. It's a testament to the care bestowed upon everyday objects, a blend of utility and respect. Interestingly, these repair techniques became a subtle art form. Some owners deliberately made visible patches, almost like badges of honor. A repaired umbrella wasn't just mended. It was a chronicle of resilience, a tapestry of weathered days and nights. People joked that every patch told a story of a sudden gust, a playful child, or a narrow escape from a rainstorm. Historians still argue whether this practice was born purely from necessity or carried deeper symbolism about endurance in a restrictive society. Either way, it became part of umbrella culture, with repairmen revered almost as much as the original makers. Your attention is caught by a small crowd gathered around a storyteller, narrating tales of umbrellas that defied conventions. One story tells of a fisherman whose umbrella was lined with waterproof paper crafted from seaweed fibers, a secret blend passed down in his family. The umbrella could resist the fiercest storms, earning him a legendary reputation among his peers. You smile, realizing how umbrellas, so commonplace, hold such layers of innovation, tradition, and identity. In Edo, even the most modest umbrella was a vessel of history. The rain has finally stopped. You fold your wagesa carefully, the soft creak of bamboo echoing like a whispered goodbye. With each step, you carry the echoes of countless umbrellas, silent companions on the journey through time. The sun is dipping low, casting long shadows over the wooden rooftops and narrow alleys. You find yourself near a temple courtyard where umbrellas, folded and leaning against pillars, wait like silent sentinels. The scent of incense mingles with the cool evening air, creating a serene cocoon amidst the city's bustle. Temples in Edo weren't just spiritual centers. They often played unexpected roles in social life. Some offered shelter for travelers during sudden rains, their courtyards doubling as umbrella resting spots. Others became discreet venues for gatherings, poets, artists, and merchants meeting under the guise of prayer, sharing ideas hidden beneath the canopy of umbrellas. One temple, famous for its annual Rain Festival, celebrated umbrellas as symbols of protection and renewal. Participants paraded with elaborately decorated wagesa, each telling a story of the wearer's lineage, dreams, or secret hopes. The event was part celebration, part performance, blending tradition with subtle acts of expression. Interestingly, the festival persisted even through periods of umbrella bans, morphing into a quiet resistance. By cloaking rebellion and ritual, participants circumvented restrictions while preserving their craft and culture. Historians still debate how much of this was intentional defiance versus cultural preservation, but the impact was undeniable. You watch as an elderly monk carefully folds his umbrella, its faded paper telling stories of decades past. He smiles kindly, nodding toward you, as if recognizing a fellow traveler through time. You realize that umbrellas, in their quiet way, connect generations. Each fold a bridge between past and present. Outside, the last light fades, and the city prepares for night. The umbrellas, folded and waiting, seem to hum softly with stories yet to be told. And you, under your own wagesa, feel a gentle warmth, knowing you carry a piece of that history as you walk. Night deepens around you, the streets glowing faintly under lantern light, shadows stretching long and soft. You find yourself in a quiet corner, where a single lantern hangs beside a shopfront once famed for its umbrella craftsmanship. The sign is faded, but the air still hums with memories of artisans bending over delicate frames, hands steady as the rain that falls outside. You imagine the workshop in its heyday, hammers tapping, paper stretched, lacquer brushed on in rhythmic strokes. Apprentices learning not just technique, but patience, reverence, and the subtle art of folding both paper and expectation. Here, the umbrella was more than an object. It was a lesson in restraint and creativity. It said that some workshops developed signature folds, subtle variations in how the umbrella closed and opened, each a silent signature visible only to the discerning eye. These folds carried pride, status, and sometimes secret messages. Imagine passing an umbrella across a crowded street, the way it unfolded speaking volumes without a word. But the 18th century bans loomed like a shadow over these traditions. Workshops were forced underground or shuttered altogether. Yet the craft endured, passed from master to student in hushed tones, hidden behind sliding doors. The wagesa became a quiet act of preservation, a soft rebellion against erasure. Historians debate whether these bans were truly about control or fear of losing cultural identity. Perhaps both. Because when you try to erase something so embedded in daily life, it fights back in whispers, in paper and bamboo. You step away from the shopfront, the lantern's glow fading behind you. The city feels different now, older, wiser, wrapped in stories folded like umbrellas ready to bloom again with the next rain. The night wraps around you like a soft, cool cloak as you wander toward the quiet riverbanks once more. Here, the umbrellas of Edo seem to breathe in the gentle night air, their folded forms resting patiently beneath lantern-lit bridges. You can almost hear the echoes of centuries, footsteps muffled by rain, whispered conversations beneath canopies, the rustle of washi paper against bamboo ribs. In the final days of the shogunate, as Japan began to open its doors to the world, the umbrella evolved yet again. Western designs arrived, bringing sturdier frames, metal fittings, and waterproof fabrics that changed the very idea of rain protection. But the wagesa, with its delicate craft and subtle symbolism, remained a cherished reminder of a bygone era. Today, you might see wagesa carried during festivals or performances, their presence a living link to Edo's layered past. The umbrella's delicate art, once feared and banned, now celebrated. Historians still debate how much of their story is fact, legend, or a blend of both, a testament to their enduring mystery. As you fold your own umbrella, you feel the weight of history settle softly in your hands. This simple object has shielded emperors and merchants, inspired poets and rebels, and carried stories through centuries of rain. And as you close your eyes, perhaps you'll dream of Edo's gentle rain, where umbrellas bloom like flowers, and every drop whispers a secret. Now, the city quiets as night deepens, and the rain's rhythm slows to a gentle murmur. You feel the softness of the air, the fading light brushing your skin like a whispered goodbye. The umbrellas rest, folded and waiting, their stories tucked safely beneath layers of paper and lacquer. Imagine the countless hands that shaped them, the silent defiance in every delicate fold, the quiet beauty held within each canopy. As you breathe in, you carry with you the spirit of Edo, where even the simplest object held layers of meaning, where art and rebellion danced softly under the rain. Let your thoughts drift with the gentle patter, knowing you've walked through time, sheltered by stories that bloom quietly like cherry blossoms in spring. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. Feel the calm seep in, the steady pulse of history folding around you like a warm embrace. With every breath, sink deeper into peace, knowing that beneath every umbrella lies a story, and that some stories, like rain, are meant to soothe. Sleep well, and sweet dreams.